My name is Rebecca Williams. I'm Vice President of Operations and Programs at EWR Radar Systems. You can go to the next slide. The company is in St. Louis, Missouri. We were founded way back in 1982. We're the industry leader in solid state weather radars and have deployed solid state weather radars since 2006. And we are currently the #1 supplier of weather radars to the U.S. Department of Defense. You can go to the next slide. This is just a little brochure that we have on solid state and kind of how solid state technology has changed throughout the years and our role in that. If you want a copy of it, it's back at the booth. The customers that we've had are varied. We work with a lot of Met agencies. We also work with a lot of militaries, water management companies, emergency management companies, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and then some private individuals as well. So radar really plays a role in all of these different market segments. Next. Just so you can see kind of what we do, we deployed a radar down in Mexico way back in 2018 with their water management department. They wanted to see some increased visibility for incoming weather so they could better manage public safety and flooding located in Mexico City. If you're familiar with the topography, they're located in a lake basin, and the city is actually sinking every year. So water management is incredibly important for Mexico. Next slide. The project itself had quite a few challenges. Next one. Thanks. No, that's fine. So the project itself actually had quite a few challenges. It has a difficult topography and it is a very densely populated area. And of course, budget was a huge consideration because there was kind of lack of infrastructure. So everything had to be built from the ground up, which was not easy in Mexico. Something to also consider was they had limited maintenance capabilities. They were a water management firm, not a Met service. So they didn't have anybody who was actually familiar with radars to start. So what we proposed to them, you go to the next slide, is this radar here. It was an E800 X-band dual polarization radar. And this radar itself was able to cover the 22 million people in Mexico City. We chose a solid state radar for them because it has lower maintenance and it is much safer. It's also a very durable product. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're actually here to talk about today is how we can build capacity in Met services. I think it's great that everybody is increasing their critical infrastructure by procuring components. What we see a lot that's left out of the procurement process is how to issue appropriate training and how to sustain these products over the years. So we believe in developing a partnership with kind of the end user, which allows us to invest in the actual people and make the infrastructure sustainable over the long term. Okay. All right. So just in things that we've heard about weather radar and some of the most recent tenders that have come out, there is a lack of comprehensive training that is built into these tenders. There's a lack of direct technical support for the maintainers on the ground. And there's also an over-reliance of technical expertise from foreign entities. So what we need to do and consider is how do we take the knowledge and have an effective knowledge transfer to either local partners or the local end user. Okay. Without that, we can see systems are not lasting as long as they are meant to. Okay. All right. So what can we as the private sector deliver? What do we actually want to see in procurement tenders? Initial and ongoing training. We need to do train the trainer program so you can internally train new employees that come on how to operate and maintain these systems. And then we need to consider the full lifecycle support necessary to maintain the radars. For some of our projects, training is incredibly important. Training starts before delivery of the product. It is not when you get it, it's actually prior to that. Because how are your users going to know what they're looking for at FAT and SAT if they don't have training prior to installation? Then there's training with installation and then ongoing training. So we can define training by schedule, when is it, scope, how much it covers, and what are the expected outcomes of that. With training also, there is a multitude of factors. There are a lot of different people who are going to be touching this equipment. The operators, the forecasters, the maintainers, and a forgotten entity is your IT staff. It is important that all of the data that comes from the sensors that you buy is effectively integrated into your national network, and cybersecurity is a big concern now as well. So how are we going to manage that as time goes along? What you can do is look at doing some kind of service level agreement where the manufacturer works with you as the end user and preferably a local in-country partner to set all of this up. But what we need to see as the manufacturer is, what are your requirements? What's your requirement for uptime? Are you looking at a 95% availability, a 98% availability? It really depends on the equipment. How are you doing maintenance? There's preventive maintenance, there's, which would be, I guess, be considered scheduled, and there's unscheduled maintenance. Who is in charge of doing that? And what is the time frame of requirement for that? So for our US DoD customer, I have a 2-hour response time to start troubleshooting their system. And I have a 24-hour response time to actually get it up and running again, or I owe them a replacement system. Okay. Now, we're lucky that we can do that because we have portable systems and we can fully deploy a fully functional radar system. For some of the bigger systems, that's not possible. But what is the expectation that you need to make sure things are going? Also, what kind of updates are you going to need? Are you going to need hardware updates? Are you looking at product obsolescence? Are you looking at software updates? When you move from Rail 6 to Rail 7 to Rail 8 because of your IT requirements, are you sure that your software is going to work? And then especially with the new CMMC requirements, how do you know that the systems are all compliant with your cybersecurity? Okay. The other things that we look at and would like included, remote support. We offer 24-hour, 7-day-a-week remote support with a guaranteed response time. Is that something you need, or do you need something that's maybe a little less than that? How do you do refresher training? We offer the military annual refresher training for new people coming in. And then every 3 years or so, we bring everybody together and have a big train the trainer event for their actual trainers. And then what kind of certification can you get for your staff? We offer certification on our radars individually, but for the forecasters, we've partnered with some universities to offer them actual certification through those schools. So what are you looking to do to build capacity in your area? Okay. All right. So I'll kind of wrap it up here because I know it's lunchtime. But really, we're really happy to see these hardware procurements. But without the life cycle support and the training, it is a short-term investment. So if you can add via a public-private partnership, some of that training and support, you can make it a long-term sustainable national asset. Okay.
Thank you for that presentation. I just wanted to offer some information with regard to radar maintenance within the Caribbean. The Caribbean Meteorological Organization has an operational radar group that comprises of the radar technicians and the IT personnel in our radar host countries. But it's not the only CMO that's involved. We have participants from Saint Martin, from Meteor France, Guadeloupe, and also from Curacao. So others within the region are invited to attend. And they're basically, it's a knowledge exchange and capacity building within the region. And it's been operating. We were approved in 2019, but then we had the pandemic. So we didn't actually start working as a group until 2022. And it's been quite effective as a group. And we were recently invited to participate in the upcoming International Radar Conference that's going to be in Toronto. And the group is chaired by the deputy director in Barbados' Met Service, who was trained as a radar tech, and also the lecturer at CIMH who lectures on radar meteorology. Those are the two co-chairs. And we were also asked to nominate someone to participate in the WMO's operational radar expert team. So just giving some background information that we recognize that such a big part of radar operations is the maintenance. So if you can't maintain, then you won't have the services. Thanks.
I really appreciate that. It it is so important to kind of get that. And what we're seeing in tenders is, and I can say this as a radar manufacturer, we see some tenders that are done very well with that kind of outlined, including the technology transfer to the purchasing country. Um, and then we see some that don't lay that out or specify that at all. And as a business, you're going to respond and answer to what is actually requested of you. So it is not out of bounds to ask for the extra training, ask for the follow-up, ask for, classes. Asian countries are actually really good at doing that. Most of their radar tenders come out with 4 to 6 weeks of factory training, and then an additional 4 to 6 weeks of on-site, on-the-job training for their people. So the ask is never too big. Now, will it increase cost a little bit? Absolutely. But you'll save that, down the road. This should be run as a long-term project, not a single procurement where you're purchasing a system and it's being delivered and they're walking away. They really need to be able to outline a plan for you of what it's going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We have worked with the US government a lot. So ours is mostly set up like that. So there's way more paperwork than you would ever want to do. But what that means is there's really good communication and documentation for moving forward down the road. So you have to kind of know what's going on with the project, what to ask for. And if you ask companies, they'll help you kind of design or outline what that needs to look like and what other people have asked for in the past.
I just mentioned recently there was a tender from the Cayman Islands for airport weather systems, and this is the first tender I've worked on that asks for a service level agreement. And so the bidders had to actually bid two different levels of service, and that was all taken into consideration by in the awarding the tender. And so it is a formula that helps extend the life and transition to maintenance of a system. So it's great to see that in these projects.
And we're hoping to see it kind of in every project. I mean, when you purchase a radar, it's a huge investment. You're spending a lot of money to do that. You want to make sure you get your money's worth out of that investment by making it last as long as possible. So the radars that we sold to the Air Force in 2009, all of them are still in operation today because we have set maintenance plans. We're in charge of product obsolescence. So it's our job to notify them if a part is going to be obsolete so you don't have the issue of replacement down the road. We're in charge of their cybersecurity to make sure that they're up to date on that. We're in charge of data integration. Depends on how you write it. You could go kind of full service warranty, but you need to make sure that the manufacturer is there and available to be able to do that. They also, and the model that's worked best for us is they have to be willing to share the knowledge to a local in-country partner. So of course you're going to be reliant on the manufacturer to start with, but the goal would be to involve a local engineering firm or organization, if you can't take this over yourself, to make sure that you have knowledge on the ground there that is going to allow you to kind of perform maintenance or any troubleshooting at a much quicker pace. Okay, lunchtime?